And happy new year, everyone. I can't be more excited for my first guest this year because we are fellow election nerds, government nerds.
We are.
And Frances is an author and she's a teacher and she is going to explain Civics 101 to us today because
Okay.
we've got elections coming up.
Yeah, we do. I'm excited. I like the election year.
I
It's
do
fun. It's fun for me to teach it to students. So I always have a good time.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? Let's lay out the basics and go from there.
Okay.
What do we need to know this year?
A lot of people don't understand how a typical, this year aside, this is elections years, okay? You have to vote 3 times. And a lot of people don't understand why. I already voted for that guy once. Why do I have to vote for him again? And it dumbfounds me. So I teach this to my students in high school. I teach it a homeschool tutorial. High school students, I teach it every year. And every year my students go home and they tell their parents about it. And their parents go, I didn't know this. I thought, okay, so I'm going to explain this to you. So the way I think of it is like a baseball season. Election cycle is like a baseball season. So you have the regular season, once you get through the spring training and everything, you have the regular season to start. And, as you go through spring training and your regular season, the teams start lining out. Now, it's important to remember that in baseball, you have the National League and the American League.
Ooh.
This is important.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So National League, American League. Basically, during the year, National League teams play against National League teams, and that's it. Now, once in a while, they'll do a crossover thing. Don't worry about it. Most of the time, it's National League against National League, American League against American League. Okay, so think of those two things, those two leagues, as the different, political parties. Republicans, Democrats. Okay, so all the Republicans in a primary election, all you're going to see on your ballot are primary or are Republican candidates, or if you're in the Democrat Party, Democrat candidates. Those are the only one you see. So when I go to vote in a primary election, I always elect to vote in the Republican Party. So they put in the slot for me, and all I see, Republicans. They all have an R after a name. I know that. So then I basically have to pick the one which most aligns with my values. And remember, this is going to be at the national level, the state level, and the local level. I've got to pick the candidate, and we'll go back and dig through that in a minute. But I have to pick the candidate that most aligns with my values. Meanwhile, people who are voting in the Democrat primary are doing the same thing. They're picking their candidate. The person who wins that candidate that election is then going, those two are going to face off against each other in a general election. Okay, so we have to get through the primaries first. So I think of that as like, this is the National League Division Series, and this is the American League Division Series. That's what your primary election is. They play against each other. Somebody is a winner. They go to the World Series. The World Series is a general election. So in the general elections, I'm going to see both the Republican candidate and the Democratic candidate, plus any independents that snuck their way in. Okay, think of them as the wild card. Yeah, they're the wild cards.
They're the wild card.
You're the wild card
They're
candidates. Yes, they
swinging.
can be a Republican, they can be a Democrat, they can be neither. They can be an anarchist, they can be a communist. They have an I after their name. It doesn't matter. They get in that general election. So then we have to come back a few months later after those two candidates have duked it out, much like the World Series playoff games. You have up to 7 games, and at the end of that, we pick the winner. Okay, so then that would be 2 elections. Why do we have 3? Okay, because in the spring, we start out with local level elections. So in the local level, you're going to see things like your county mayor, county administrator, a county executive, whatever they call him in their county. Your register of deeds will be up. Your county trustee, the county tax assessors, school board members.
doesn't
Yeah,
do taxes.
our assessors run on the presidential election years. And let's see, the county clerk. Okay, there will be some court positions, sheriff's office, things like that are all in the local. Those kind of things are local elections. They have absolutely no bearing whatsoever on state elections, national elections. These are the local people. And this is where I get dumbfounded with people. They will tell me, I've actually had people say to me many times, I don't worry about those county elections. I don't know any of them. And what does that have to do with me?
That is crazy.
These are the most important people you need to elect. These are the people who affect your day-to-day life far more than anything Donald Trump is doing in that White House. Far more than Marsha Blackburn can do at the Senate. My day-to-day life revolves around what my county level government is going to do. Mm-hmm. I need to make sure I know these people. And let me tell you this, you say, I don't know them. Well, that's because they don't have a $10 million budget to run for a seat that's going to maybe pay $50,000 a year. Nobody's going to do that in their right mind. So they have to make sure that they spend wisely. At best, though, they will have a social media account. Mm-hmm. If they're campaigning at all, I can look at your social media account. I can track that back. I can see your personal account out of that. Oh, your name's John Smith, candidate? Let me go look for John Smith without candidate. Let me see how John Smith has been in the past.
Ooh.
What's his opinion been on different things that were of local importance?
Ooh.
Yes, I can look at his Facebook feed, his Instagram, X. I can look at all of those and find out about this guy. And you know what else? I can call him. I can go to, if he's doing a town hall meeting or if he's out campaigning, if I see him in the local parade, whatever, I can talk to this person. They're real people. They live in your neighborhood. You can talk to them. They're regular people. Mm-hmm. So I talk to these people. I find out about them. If they are an incumbent or have been in office in the past, I look at their past record. That's public record. I can see where they stood on issues. And if I have questions, I can call them if I want to. Mm-hmm. So I'm not so worried about the letter after their name as what I find out. Remember, these are the people who determine things like, did the road get paved? How much am I paying for my property taxes this year? Do we have a traffic light at this location where we might need one? Because there's been 5 accidents there in the last year. That kind of thing. Are my kids doing well in their schools? Do we have a solid school board? Are we making sure that the teachers are getting paid what they need to pay, that the building is maintained well? All of those things that affect my day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. That's way more important to me than what Donald Trump did last weekend or what ugly tweet he sent out last month. I don't care about that. I don't like it. I don't have to read it, but I still have to drive over the pothole-filled road. You know, that's going to affect my day-to-day life more. So don't skip those primary elections at the local level. This election's coming up in May, so first week of May. April is going to feel like it's 12 months long because this really is the only time people have to campaign. Honestly, it's just too cold to go outside before then. Mm-hmm. So April is going to be intense. Pick your candidate. I teach my students how to read those flyers that go out for candidate. Yeah, I teach them how to look at that. I mean, look at the pictures on it. Do they have a dog on it? This is a family man. This is somebody who cares about his community. Do all of their children look like Stepford children? Are they perfectly? Yeah, nobody's family looks like that. You might need to analyze that carefully. But the most important thing I think to look at who paid for that thing, because every candidate flyer that you get in the mail has to say paid for by, and then it tells you who it's paid for by. Look up that entity. Now, at the local level, a lot of them will say things like paid for by candidate or paid for by the campaign to reelect so-and-so for a county mayor. Okay, it might say something like that. So figure out who that entity is, because sometimes, even at the local level, it might be an ineligible PAC committee that just barely filed in time or didn't file yet, but they still sent that. I know that firsthand. That happened to me. Yeah, two flyers were sent out to every mailbox in my district from an illegal PAC when I ran for office. I won anyway, but it cracked me up. This is illegal. How could I be illegal? And yet I did.
People do crazy things.
They sure do. Okay, so this is your local government. Now, that's the primary that you'll see in the spring and May. Local candidates are the only ones you'll see. So if you expect to go in there and see, Marsha Blackburn's, it's not there yet. It's not there yet in March. Now, we don't have a presidential preference election. So normally in a presidential election year, we will have a presidential preference election during that spring season also. And guess what? You're not voting for a candidate there either. You're voting for a name of a person who will pinky swear and spit shake that they're going to go to the national convention for whatever your political party is and cast their vote for that candidate whose name was beside theirs. That's a whole different issue. Have me back in 2 years and I'll explain it better. Okay? Are you having fun yet?
I love it. Bring it.
Okay, so then we have to, now that we have one Republican, one Democrat, and however many independents, they're going to run in a general election head to head. That election happens in August. While that election is going on for the local general election, then you bring in the state and federal level candidates, and they're going to have their primary. So this is when I'm going to see my state legislators and all of the candidates who want to run for state legislator in the one political party or the other political party. But I will only see my political party on my ballot because, again, in August, you have to declare I'm voting Republican or Democrat. These are the only 2 times of the year that you have to declare which political party you're voting in, okay? And that is only for the primary elections. The general election, I will see both the Republican and the Democrat for the county mayor seat or the county sheriff's seat, things like that. I'll see one of each and independents. And then I'll drop down to the state and federal elections where I will see all of the Republican candidates for each office, okay, because I'm going to vote in the Republican primary. So that's in August. So then those teams there are duking it out against each other. At the end of August, we know who our new county mayor is, our new sheriff is, all of those row offices. We know who they are. So then we go into November, and it's time for the World Series there. We have the one Republican candidate versus the one Democratic candidate and any independents. And so that election, because it's only a general election, you don't have to declare whether you're Republican or Democrat. So in theory, you can go in, and even though you've been voting for the Republican candidates all year long, you could, in theory, go in and vote for the Democrat candidate. If you feel that's the best one, you can. I hear a lot of people say, I don't vote for the party, I vote for the candidate. That's fine. But what I tell my students is, you need to know what you believe and why you believe it before you cast a vote. I've talked an awful lot. Do you need to say anything?
No, I'm just fascinated. You do need a drink of water because I could listen all day. You know me. I'm geeking out.
Good. I'm glad. Okay. To do this, I wrote about this in my book. I make a chart for every office that I'm good. And for me, at this point, it's a mental chart. I already know how to do this. But for my students, I draw out a chart and I ask my students, give me 5 issues for a local level candidate that are the most important ones to you. I want a good road superintendent. I want somebody who's going to fill the potholes. I want to make sure that we are paying our teachers very well. I want to make sure that I don't get a wheel tax added on this year. Your 5 issues. What are the 5 most important issues? And remember, if this is for a local candidate, I really don't care what his position on foreign affairs is because he is never going to cast a vote on foreign affairs while he is the local county commissioner. He's going to cast a vote on whether or not I'm going to have a wheel tax added to when I go to get my car tags every year. That's all I care about. Are you going to vote for that or against that? So then I list my 5 issues. Then, important, I list where I stand on those issues. Do I want a rock quarry 3 miles up the road from me? Yes, no. Where do I stand? So I write where I stand down. That helps me to know why I believe this. Why I think I should not have a wheel tax added, or I should have a wheel tax added if you're for that. Why? Then I start looking at those flyers I get in the mail and see, where does this candidate align with me on this? Does he say anything about, oh, he didn't say anything on this flyer. How about if I go to his social media feed, see if he says anything? I'm going to go to that town hall meeting he's holding, and I'm going to check it out. I'm going to run into him at the local wherever for a cup of coffee one morning, and I'm going to ask this guy, what's your position on this issue? I find this out about these candidates.
She is tenacious.
I am tenacious.
I would find the candidates as
you
well.
You don't get my vote if you can't answer to me. I mean, it's also important to remember Jesus Christ isn't on the ballot. That's significant. It's not on the ballot. You are not going to find the perfect candidate. I don't agree, though, with my husband on every issue. We've been married for 36 years. I love him, but he's wrong sometimes. God bless him. And so if I don't agree with him on everything, how am I going to agree with a guy on every single issue? That we're not. We're absolutely not. There is literally no candidate in office that I've ever voted for that thoroughly aligned with me, even my very most favorite candidate. did not align with me on one issue. Okay? Chad Matheny.
Love that.
I did too. So
What was the one issue?
he was running a bill about physician assisted suicide. He was running it on behalf of another statesman, a past legislator who was dying of cancer. And this candidate asked him, he said, look, I know it's never going to pass, but would you just please run this just so I can get the information out? And he agreed to run the bill. And because I worked at the time for a pro-life organization in Tennessee, I had to make an appointment. And I sat in his office. I said, this is where it stands. This is what my organization thinks. This is where we are. You're not going to get our endorsement. And he said, you know what? I completely understand why you wouldn't endorse me. This is why I'm doing this. The man came to me and asked me, and I agreed to carry this bill. It's not going to pass. I agree. But at the end of the meeting, we stood up, we gave each other a hug. I walked out the door, and I had permission to walk back in his office anytime I wanted to because I knew the rules. You know, I can respectfully disagree with you, you know, and not change our personal position on each other. Loved him. Great candidate. Yeah. Great elected official too.
Just cared. Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
All right.
I've given you a lot of stuff.
No, I mean, gosh, because I want to hear it. I think communication is very important with candidates that are town halls, anywhere that you can get a candidate to talk about their vision, what, you know, their priorities, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So all of our candidates in Grundy, and actually I've just gotten a Marion County one because we cover Mont Eagles, as you know, 3 counties.
Yeah.
To talk about XYZ. And so I'm going to come up with XYZ, and so they all have the same questions.
Right, yeah.
And they can prepare in advance.
Right.
Would you advise it that way?
Absolutely, I would.
Okay.
Because, let me just tell you, sitting in front of a microphone is hard. And whether you're in the room with people or you're in an empty room with a camera like we are, it's hard to just step here and talk. And really, it's 38 years of speaking in front of students.
She's amazing.
That is the only thing that keeps me going here, you know. I'm not great at this. I'm not nearly as talented, but you do this day in and day out.
Day in and day out.
What about the new guy who is running, you know, he's been on the county commission seat for years. When has he spoken? When he's gotten a chance to speak? And now you're going to ask this person to run for a county mayor seat or a sheriff's seat or something like that, and you expect him to have his game on every second? Nobody can do that. Donald Trump can't do that. Nobody does that. That's why they need to take time and write out, this is what I believe, this is the order I want to say things in, and then they can get through and give you, it's not an opportunity for them to cheat. It's an opportunity for them to show you what their position is and how well they might be able to serve and where they align with you on your issues.
Could you write up something for me that I can give out? From your book?
Or you can just, get a copy of the book. I might even lend you this one.
I'm totally going to ask you. So, all right. What are we missing? What are we missing?
I think just, making out the chart and deciding what your issues are at the national level too. And remember, people don't understand when you say, okay, we need a traffic light at this intersection. Well, I'm going to call I'm going to call the White House about this. The White House doesn't know you need a traffic light at that intersection. They don't care. Think about the level of government that you're dealing with and make sure that the issues you want to talk about align with the issues that they will vote on, that they will cast a vote on in their legislative meetings. That's important. I'm dumbfounded at the number of people. I want to know how he stands on this one. They're never going to cast a vote on that. Whether you have paved roads, snow plows, whatever, the federal government can handle that. That's a local and state matter. So,
what else can a citizen do to better prepare themselves?
Get involved in them.
Okay.
Get involved in them. One of the requirements I have for Student Eagles is that they get involved in some way in an election. I cannot tell them which political party. It's a nonprofit, and I adhere to that. So I don't pick candidates for them. I have never told a student, well, you should go and support that campaign. I tell you know how to research these candidates now because I just taught you that. You go research them, and then you make sure you know where you believe, where you align with those issues. Pick the candidate who most aligns with you, and then go support that candidate. Now, if you need me to call that candidate, whatever political party they're in, I will call them and I will set up a meeting for you to go and meet with them, with your parents, and see how you can best help their campaign. Or I'll set up a meeting for you and their campaign manager, depending on the size of the election. And several of my students have worked in gubernatorial, senatorial elections. I've had some students who have run campaigns for state level candidates. I've had students who've run campaigns for school board elections. Critical those school board elections, by the way. Make sure you get those. That is one of, if you've got children or if you don't, school board elections are so important. So make sure you're looking into those candidates.
We have 6 out of 9 of ours
are up for reelection right now.
We had a couple of that, and then so it's big, and we always go. And here's the weirdest thing, and I don't know if this happens in other counties. For as long as I've been back home, so it's been 20-something years, every 2 years, the school board changes sides. Wow. They go back, forthy, they get mad at something, and then they go somewhere else. Like in Grundy, we paid off, I don't know, 3 or 4 superintendents at one time. Wow. Is it normal for it to be that volatile?
I've not seen that level of volatility very often. But then it's a local election, so they are hard to keep up with unless you live in a county or in an area where you can really watch that. But I've not seen that level of volatility where you switch back and forth that often. Well, I mean, every 4 years.
We have clan wars here. We're going to move on. All right. The other thing before you go, because I know you've got a time commitment.
Yeah.
All right. You are a teacher's advocate.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
Hardcore. You're also a homeschool teacher.
Yep.
Hardcore.
Yeah.
And now we have this voucher system that was a hardcore issue.
It was a hardcore issue.
What do you think about that this year? Where are we at with that?
I'm hopeful. Okay. I just have to believe that this is going to work out the best for students. I don't think it will. I've not seen it be highly successful in many other areas, but I'm hoping that there's some X factor we don't know about that is going to come up in Tennessee and make this truly effective. I have to be hopeful. I mean, what's the alternative?
Yeah,
I have to be hopeful that this is going to work.
Well, how can we, like in Grundy County, we have no debt. And now we have to start making, it's a big deal. It causes a lot of pain, but it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So now we can make some smart decisions going forward, hopefully. That's the deal of the day. What do you think about middle school? So that is a big topic of discussion among our school board members currently. And it probably should be because it's been around a long time. We are K through 8 and we're high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're debt free.
And we're debt free.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how crowded is your K-8 school?
It's pretty crowded.
Yeah. Boy, I sure like the idea of a middle school there.
Really?
I do, and I'll tell you why. I used to teach. I taught for 8 years in a public school system, and the last 6 of those years it was at a 5th and 6th grade only school. Okay, 5th graders are sweet. When they walk into my door, they're just so sweet. And I was the music teacher too, so they just thought I was the most wonderful thing. And they're, "Hi, Miss Arthur, we just love you." Well, it was so cute. And then they would go home for the summer and come back as 6th graders. And over that summer, it was like all the hormones set in. I'm not saying anything bad about the students because they're not. It's just suddenly we have raging hormone issues that they've not had to deal with before, and they don't know how to manage those. And I'm just saying, not every kid that happens between 10 and 11 years old. It doesn't happen that way for everybody. But boy, that was a more often than not issue. Okay, so if my 6th graders were here, my 5th graders are here. What about when those kindergarten students see those 6th graders and the 7th and 8th graders who are, more in their own little zone with more hormones? They're just different students. And I love that. That's one of my favorite age groups. I love them because I know what they're going through. know what they're going through. And I just want to love them anyway. They're just precious. And yeah, and by the time they get into high school, we've got the hormones and they kind of can manage that and navigate it. But that issue of going through, let's just call it what it is, puberty, going through that time, that's a rough time for kids. And they need to be loved a lot. But they need to be loved away from people over here who are still cute and sweet in kindergarten and first grade. And yeah. So I'm not opposed to that 6th through 8th grade level. I understand the value, though, of having the K-8 and having them all together, because the big brother can look out for the little brother and things like that. And so I'm going to say what I think is really the most important here is that your community knows your community the best. And they know what is going to work best for their families here. And at this point, I still think that, and you can call me out if I'm wrong, that Grundy County is small enough so that families know one another, and we know, oh, that kid needs to go home with that big brother, and oh, it's okay for this big brother to go and check on that little brother, their dog died last night. All of this stuff. You have that kind of closeness and community bonding here in Grundy County that frankly you don't have in most other counties. But you still have that here. So I can see why a K-8 would be more valuable at this juncture. That may change. So I'm going to have to say, you've got to do what's best for your community. And that's why I really hope that Donald Trump can end the Department of Education at the federal level.
Oh my gosh. Because
the federal level has absolutely no business telling the people of Grundy County how they need to operate their schools.
Amen. Right.
It has to be local government doing this. And this, again, is why your county level government seats, the school boards, those are so important.
And and the hard thing, and this is for the candidates out there, because I think February the 19th is the deadline for our local papers to be done, is it's a tough row to hoe to run for office and be in public office. The public is pretty brutal.
Yeah, they are.
And
that's why I did not run again.
Yeah, why would any sane person?
Right. I think we're really too mean to candidates at large. And even once they get elected, we're really too mean to them. And how we can extend that grace to them when they're just, the guy who sits 2 pews back at the church. And so we're going to give him that grace. And then suddenly we elect him to office and he's not doing everything perfectly. He didn't do everything perfectly before either. Jesus Christ isn't on the ballot. He's still just the guy who sits 2 pews back. And so we need to extend grace to these people. And one of the early lessons I learned when I started shadowing legislators at the Capitol and working up there through Eagle Forum was never, ever threaten a candidate. Never, ever threaten a government official. It will not serve you or them. It will not help you to get your point across. Also remember, in both the federal constitution and the state constitution, you have a right to petition your government for a redress of grievances. That's sitting down with one another over a cup of coffee in a pleasant meeting where, again, like I did with Joe Matheny, we're not going to agree on everything, but at the end of the meeting, I want to be able to go back to him and shake his hand and, frankly, be in a position where I can tell him about Jesus. And if I chewed him out the day before and yelled at him and told him what a bad job he was doing, I wouldn't have that liberty to go back again. So never make threats. Be honest. Be clear. Frame your message well, and be polite. Whenever you're dealing with those people, those officers, those elected officials, speak to them like they're human beings and like you'd want to be treated. That's it.
Because aren't we supposed to be, as a local, because getting it back as local as we can, because it affects us more,
it does.
Is we look at leaders in our churches, we look at people who have a track record of XYZ that we're looking for, that there's a continuity of moral compass. It's always a good thing.
There is.
And that it's just like, I can tell you anything you want to hear, but where's your background? That goes back to research. So that's where we're wanting our leaders to grow up from, and we have to quit being so ugly to the people who do take.
Yes,
we say, I'm going to help.
Yes, how can I help you? And so that's why I have my students help candidates to get elected. I've actually had students on 2 sides in a primary election. They were working for 2 different candidates.
Wow.
Yes, I was so proud. I couldn't stand it. So I thought, both of those students, and it was just a small minor thing that separated them, but the students found the issue that was important to them and they campaigned for their candidate. You campaign for somebody and then they get elected. All you've got to do to get an audience with them is make a phone call and say, hey, hi, I'm Jane Smith, and I helped you to get elected. Can I sit down and talk with you about whatever this is?
And they will.
They will. You helped them get elected. They love you.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, it's so cool to think that, of like Trey Hargett, Jason Mumpower, that whole dynamic that happened with the takeover.
Yeah.
And it does matter, and that's how I feel about Marcia. It's just the heavy lifting. There are people that when there was how many Republicans in a phone booth up there, and it matters.
It does matter. Support your candidates. Once you elect them, they're still human beings. And if nothing else, they still need your prayers. They really do. And if you're a Christian, you're called to pray for our candidates anyway, because when they have peace, they will provide peace for their nation, and I will have peace. And I like me having peace.
Oh gosh, peace is it. And all right, so the very, very last thing I want to ask Frances before she goes, she's a sassy now.
I am. I love it so much.
Her first one.
My first grandson, and he's the most beautiful thing ever.
Sassy. Where'd y'all come up with the name? It's perfect, by the way.
Yeah. Well, in my spare time, I'm a competitive ballroom dancer. And so I just couldn't see me being called grandma. Not that that's a negative term. I just don't feel that for me. I mean, that's certainly what I called my grandparents. I called one grandma and one Meemaw, and, and so, sassy just seemed to fit me. So I'm sassy. And at least if he can say it whenever he begins to speak, he's only 2 months now. So it'll be a while before he speaks. But.
So both of, if you guys can remember from previous times, both of her sons are fabulous warriors.
They are two of the most amazing young people I've ever been around.
How can they not?
I can't even believe God let me raise those sons. It's just amazing that He gave them to me.
And they're they're different in the same at the very, like Ben's hilarious.
It's
hilarious. That's who gave her a grandchild. We're still working on David.
David is a character in and of himself. David will tell you exactly what you never will wonder where you stand with David.
He rides a horse down at the border.
Yes, he's a horse patrol officer.
He's a horse patrol.
He rides through the desert on a horse with a name.
And what's Ben Day? I mean, he's been deployed how many times?
He's been deployed, I think 4 times that I'm allowed to know about. Yeah, because he does some other stuff that I'm not allowed to know about and I don't want to know about. But 4 times, and he's working at a government contract job now, and does National Guard, and then he's still scuba diving, and cleaning a couple of boats and for the Coast Guard in Brunswick, and
it's so good with those kids.
They're amazing young men.
I was telling Frances my fond memory, and this is the faith of this young man. Him and David are just hilarious.
They absolutely.
And Ben was hiking the Fiery Gizzard Trail.
Yep.
One, I think it was spring, summer. I don't know what it was. And you have to have someone at the end of the Fiery Gizzard Trail take you back to where you parked.
That's important to know.
It's important to know.
He didn't know it.
And he may have not known it. May have said, he's like, Auntie, you just threw it up. I get this call or this text. I'm like, hey. I mean, out of the blue, like just trusting that I'm going to be around to pick him up. And I picked him up because he's your baby.
Yeah.
And so here we go. And he's just living his best life.
He really is. I have never in my whole life seen anybody who is sitting right smack in the center of God's will the way Ben and David Arthur are. It's amazing. And they're both living their best lives. Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully we'll have you on again. This is going to be a really wild
It is going to be a wild
year.
Elections that year. Yeah, and I'd love to come back and talk more about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Because you're raising the fine humans. All right. We're going to go on a quick break, thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back. As always, thanks for watching Morning on the Mountain. I'll see you in a minute.